So this time we're talking all about photography. So, when you are trying to sell your product, you might be updating your website, you might be wanting to sell more of what it is you are providing as a service or as a product, or even I'm going to go with equipment today. But you think, I'll just take a photo with my iPhone. And then when you look at it, you think, actually, you've sort of moved stuff out the way and you've like plonked your thing down and you think it's okay, but actually you look at the lighting, you're like, will that do? I'm not sure it will, but you go with it anyway. And then you realise that actually you should have got the professionals in. So today we're talking all about why professional photography matters, why you should be investing in it. And I'm talking to Kev Timmons, who's a very experienced photographer. His career has spanned from portrait photography through to doing machinery, and recently videography and drones. So we'll be talking a little bit more about that. So yeah, should we dive in? Kevin, can I call you Kev? Is that okay?
Yeah, yes, please do. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to introduce yourself? Give us some of your backstory, how you started, and where you've got to, really.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm Kev, so hello, and thank you for having me on the podcast, first of all.
It's okay.
It's my first time I've been on a podcast, so that's quite interesting for me.
I'll try and be gentle.
Great, thanks. So yeah, I mean, it started a long time ago. I started in school, way back in the 1980s. I was interested in photography, and we did a photography class in our art class as part of our art class, and that sparked my interest. I joined camera clubs in my teens, and then I started as an apprentice colour retoucher in 1983. So that was heavily connected to the photography industry as well, because we were using large format cameras and film, and even during my apprenticeship we did an awful lot of photography. So it goes a long way back for me, 40 something years now, which is frightening in itself. So yeah, how did I progress? I carried on with my retouching career. Funnily enough, I knew Gill's dad very well. Actually worked with him at one company for a while. But yeah, that was just a coincidence. And since then, I got more and more involved on the photography side. I set up a photography studio for a company for a short while, and then thought, you know what, I want to go self-employed. And 2011, I decided to buy a photography franchise doing portrait and weddings. Spent 2 years doing that and thought, this really isn't for me. It's not my thing. I was far more interested in machinery, construction type things, architecture, industry manufacturing. And gradually over the last 10 years, I've evolved completely to be doing that side of the business. So now I only go in and photograph and video, as Gill alluded to earlier, manufacturing, engineering and construction companies, helping them with their marketing. So that's a very brief outline of my story of photography and how I got there.
Excellent. And it's amazing how many people I bump into that know my dad. They get
small world.
Small world. So you touched on you've moved into machinery and photography and videography for those. Did you ever, when you started out, did you ever think you'd get into that? Did you think that was what interested you, or do you think it's just evolved as time's gone on?
I would say that looking back now, I should have probably gone into that straight away, because I think that's me. That's my happy place. So because I find it interesting, finding out what other people do, how things are made. If you like the programs on TV, you see where you see it inside the factory, and it's behind the scenes of what they do, how they make things. Well, I get to see all that on a first hand. So looking back, I think I've always been interested in that, and I shouldn't really have gone into portraits and weddings, family portraits and weddings. Although, it worked out okay for that couple of years. It just wasn't my thing. I didn't really get on that well with it. Whereas the interest lies in what to do now. So yeah, I think it was there really all the time, and just underlying, and I didn't notice it.
So when you talk about manufacturing and engineering, what kind of businesses are you working with?
All sorts. So manufacturing engineering, there's people who make soundproofing that I do quite a bit of work for. Companies who make pharmaceutical isolators, companies who are in the printing industry. There's all sorts of people who do make and do different things. People who make raw tie-in stuff. People who do different bits and pieces of anything really to do with engineering. Anybody who creates a product are the sorts of people that I do work with and enjoy doing work for. So they may start off with a small product that fits into bigger products down the line. And so we'll photograph the process right through or video the process right through. And those are the sorts of companies that I work with on a regular basis in the manufacturing engineering. And we've even done stuff for people who make inks and paints, a glue company who makes glues. And so it's all different aspects of manufacturing or engineering. So it can be technical engineering or it can be bio type engineering or anything. Yeah. So
Okay,
varied, very varied. But
very
the process,
varied.
the processes do have a similarity regardless.
Their processes or yours?
Theirs and
Right.
mine, it's telling the story really of from the beginning. It could be a drawing or it could be a concept idea through to the final finished product. And we photograph the product as well in a technical way.
Okay. Can we talk about DIY photos for a minute?
Yeah, okay.
So,
So you're talking
um,
phone photographs,
yeah.
or
So,
that somebody's got a camera who is good
yeah.
at
Well,
okay at photography, shall we say?
you see, as a business owner, it comes up on my feed on social media for say, buy this selfie stick, um, buy this app, and you can edit your photos, or you can use AI to put your product into a particular situation, or it'll put it into a video. Is it fine to use those things?
Yes, is the answer. First of all, yes, it is okay to use those things for social media. Say, so
Okay.
if you've got a product, it's a rush. You haven't got the time to get a photographer in, and it's like, okay, I quickly need to get something out there. You can, if you know what you're doing with a small amount of lighting or natural light, you can get a reasonable photograph, especially with phones nowadays. They are good. And people can buy cameras for reasonably cheap prices and they produce a really good image. But it's not about the equipment. It's not about the camera. It's not just about that, I should say. It's more about how you photograph it. The view, the angle, the lighting is particularly important. So for me personally, yes, you can and should by all means be getting stuff out there as much as you can using your own photographs. However, you have to be majorly critical and majorly analytical of that image and look at it and think, is that devaluing my product? Is that devaluing my business? Am I putting something out there that people are going to go, what the heck's that? I can't even see what it is. It's very badly lit. It's got terrible reflections in it. You can see the photographer in it. You can see the cat in it or whatever else that might be in the background. Because this is the thing that people don't take into consideration when they take a photograph. They don't realise what goes into crafting an image. And then you do compare somebody who's had experience in the industry to somebody who hasn't, and it's night and day usually between the two images. And don't get me wrong, there's an awful lot of people out there who are very, very good at photography who run a business as well, and they don't potentially need a photographer in most instances. Although I do actually have a client who is a good photographer, but he hasn't got the time because he's running his business, so he gets me in to do the work. But he's very critical and he knows what's a good image and what isn't. So I have to
There
be
you
on my
go.
game. But
At least you
yeah,
know. At least you know what you're doing is quality.
yeah,
If
exactly.
he's approving it as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think yes is the answer. You can use your own photographs, um, but just be super critical of them and make sure that they do compare to other professional photographs of a similar product. So go and look at what's been done and think, does it really stand and does it critically devalue my product? And I think in a lot of cases, if you're honest with yourself, it probably does to a certain extent, because if you're putting something out there that's badly lit, and you can barely tell what it is from the photograph, or it's a terrible background with it all confusing and you can't pick it out amongst other things. Those are the sorts of things that you need to be looking for, and it needs to be clean and professional. So that's my advice as far as that goes.
Okay. So you've talked about lighting and showing cats and the photographer in the thing. In terms of things that can go wrong when you do those sorts of photographs, from a marketing perspective, obviously it makes it much harder to be able to sell a product or a service or whatever it is. But it's one thing you said there was it's important to have a look at what others are doing and whether yours matches that quality and that standard. Is there anything that you've seen where you thought, oh, that's catastrophic, I wouldn't have done that, that's really devalued that? Is there anything that you think?
I think when you generally see, let's take a manufacturing company who makes a product that then gets installed on someone's site. So that, without going into detail, there are 2 or 3 of my clients who could fall into this category. I'm not saying they do, I'm just saying they could. They will manufacture the product. It's a very expensive product. It could be worth £250,000, £500,000, that product. For them to spend the time on the original research and development of the product, for them to then create and develop that product and make it, for them to sell it to certain clients, and for them to then go and install it and then have the engineer photograph it on his iPhone in overhead fluorescent lighting in whatever scenario it's been fitted into, and then publish that onto their website, and even taking shots for the use on their instruction leaflets, and it's badly lit. It's got a horrible cast across it because it's yellow lighting. It's just totally wrong angle, everything to show that product at its best. They don't highlight the right products on it, the right parts of it for sales process, if you like, or for instructional leaflet process. So it's just purely functional. All they've done is taken a photograph of what they've done, and it doesn't work. It just doesn't work, and it looks dreadful. And like I said, it devalues that product then, because it just looks like some horrible environment that they've gone into that's dim and dank, if you like. And really, it's not. It will be probably quite a nice, clean environment, but it's not been shown at its best. That is what I find is happening quite a lot.
And do you then get asked, well, can you just Photoshop it?
I have been asked that in the past, yeah. And you can't. You can only do so much with a bad photograph.
Yeah.
You've got to start with a good photograph to Photoshop it.
Yeah. Okay.
And don't get me wrong, when I take images of anything, I know that there's got to be some process after that. There's an editing process that's got to take place. I don't just take it in camera and it's perfect.
No.
Because the types of images that I take quite often require several images of one thing to then use bits of that, because you have to light a certain part of it and then light another. If it's a big product, you have to light some of it and then light some of it and then light it in certain ways and then piece all that together. Because that's the nature of the process. You can't possibly do a large product without doing that kind of thing. You can't get it in one shot without getting unwanted reflections, or badly lit areas. You've got to do it as a process. And this is the sort of thing that obviously an engineer taking a photograph of it wouldn't do, can't do, and hasn't got the time to do. It's not his job. So it's just a record, really, of what they've done more than anything else.
Okay. Have you got any stories of where professional photographs have changed the results, from them, if they've used that sort of picture in the past?
I can't really mention names of companies because
I wouldn't expect you to.
Yeah, because of them. But yes, again, there's a construction company and and two engineering companies, both of which I have been working with for several years now. Both three companies, all of which I should say, have expanded and grown their businesses in the last several years. And whether it's a coincidence since I've been working with them or not, I can't say.
Of course,
But
it's not.
I would like to say that I've been a part of that process, because they
Absolutely.
have expanded and their marketing has expanded tremendously since I've been working with them. They have been, or their marketing partners have been posting an awful lot more about that company. They've got an awful lot more material to talk about, and it's things that they wouldn't necessarily have thought were interesting to other people. But when a photographer can go in, such as myself, and photograph an element of their business that they don't think is interesting because it's everyday to them, but you go in and go, "Oh, that's cool. Shall we do this?" And they go, "Oh, I'd never thought of looking at it like that." And suddenly they've got some really cool content that's great to show and engages people immediately, with them. And all of a sudden they're getting people phoning them up saying, "I didn't know you did that." So though that is a success story in itself. So a small element of what a photographer or videographer can do and show about your business can actually be something that's a key point for somebody else, because they come to you and go, "I didn't know you did that. Can you make this for us?" And it might be something that that company hasn't made before for somebody, but they didn't realize they could. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that sort of thing has happened. So
Yeah.
new things have happened because of what we do. Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. So shooting the like quite technical stuff or the quite machinery type stuff, how do you make it interesting?
Well, first of all, you've got to tell a story. So that's the interesting bit. Because of any business, if you're not telling their story, it's just a finished product, and all finished products are just boring. If they just posted photographs of their finished product all the time, it's just a product. It's kind of like any shopping site that's on the internet, so it's a bit boring, really. If you show behind the scenes a little bit more, you show how that thing's made, you show the people behind it, particularly, you get people shots where they're going in. It could be somebody building a brick wall. And if you get close ups of somebody actually building a brick wall, you're not just showing the brick wall as a product, though when it's finished, because everybody knows what that looks like, but you're showing the guy, be it, let's call him John for now. John's building a brick wall, and he's there with his, hard hat on, and he's got the smile on his face because he's enjoying his job, and he's slapping down the mortar, and then the bricks are going in, and he's lining it all up, and he's paying attention to detail, and he's putting his spirit level on, and he shows the mixing of the mortar and all. That's an interesting story because it's cool, it's good, and it's good to see, and people watch that. And then they engage with that company because they know that they've got somebody who works for them who likes doing what they do, and it's good. And it's the same with an engineer building. He could be welding or he could be grinding, and you've got the sparks flying, but then each engineer, I don't know if you know this, but each engineer tends to have their own welding helmet, their favourite one,
I
and
did not know that.
sometimes they're customised and you get different designs on them and all that sort of stuff, and that's a personality in itself coming out. So these are the kind of things that I find interesting, and then capturing what that person's making, and then you go through the process stage by stage, and it might be a camera inside the CNC machine as it's cutting, and that's quite cool to see. But then you piece all that together into a short video or a series of photographs, and you've got a story of how that product is built, which then gives that engineering company or the construction company something they can post out every week, every month, or whatever, to tell the story of how their product's made. And then show the final product, and it's not just that final product. So that's how it makes a difference. And how I've forgotten what the original question was there now, but I'm trying to bring it
How
back
do you
to
make
it.
it interesting?
And that's to me how it
Yeah.
makes it interesting. But then
Yeah.
even with the final product, you can show different angles. Again, you can get people in there operating it, showing what it does, describing what it does. So for video or for photographs, you can actually have people pressing buttons, you can show displays, and people then click through and go, "Oh, I wonder what that does, I wonder what that does." And especially if it's a potential client, they're going to be interested in what that panel does, how it does it, what it does. It does it, you know, some of the things that I do are pharmaceutical isolators, for example. And they have remote controls that send the things up and down, so that when a person's working inside an isolator with their arms, an isolator, by the way, is where they make drugs inside a cabinet,
Right.
and
Okay.
it's got fume extraction and all that sort of stuff, and it's a totally clean environment. And you can show the operator doing stuff inside, and you can show that it goes up and down in height to allow for different heights of operator. So these are the kind of things that not everybody would know that piece of equipment does unless you show it. So that makes it interesting.
Yeah.
So it's the
Yeah.
detail. It's the
Yeah.
detail shots,
Details
the
in it.
behind the
Yeah.
scenes,
Yeah.
and then the overall product from different angles.
Yeah. It's interesting that so when you were talking before about technical equipment and things like that, I was just thinking about the equipment side of it. I wasn't thinking that actually you get the people involved as well in the, you know, and you tell the story and put the
Yeah.
people in it, which, you know, is really, really important.
Yeah, I mean, storytelling is the biggest selling aspect of any business, because people want to know how they're, you know, I guess a client wants to know that a company is in a good place. If there's no story there and all the staff are disgruntled and things like that, then they don't really want to work with them. If you've got a company who's great at what they do, all the staff enjoy what they do, and you can show that through the power of photography and video, then I think you've got a good relationship. And you're probably going to get more clients. You are going to
Yeah.
get more clients. There's no doubt
Yeah.
about it. You're going to grow. And don't forget as well, on that note, while I'm there, that also helps recruitment, not just sales. So when you're showing the culture of a company, if you like, then you've got a big aspect there to show that you've got a great environment to work in, and therefore you're going to get the best people coming to your company because they want
Yeah.
to work for you.
Yeah. It's a good point, that, actually.
Another
Yeah.
aspect to it.
Mm. So I'm intrigued, when you go into a factory, what does your shoot setup look like?
The
Do you have
first,
lots of gear?
yeah, well, that's about to say. The first thing is, I have a pickup truck, and it fits quite a lot of gear in the back. When I turn up to any shoot, especially a new client who hasn't worked with me before, the first thing they say is, "Oh my goodness, I didn't know you bring so much stuff with you." They just think, I'm sure to this day, most people think you're going to turn up with a camera and take some photographs, and that's it. Whereas actually, the process is, and I do explain it before I get there, but I do have a lot of kit with me, and that's usually at least 2 camera bodies, several lenses, filters, all sorts of different attachments for the cameras. On top of that, we have full lighting kit, which can be, if it's for an engineering shoot, a complex engineering shoot, can be 8, 10 lights, all doing different things. Huge amount of light stands and stands for putting things like materials on. The reason being is that if you've got a potentially reflective product, stainless steel, and it's on a factory floor, everything behind the photographer is going to reflect in the surface of the stainless steel. We have to eliminate everything behind, so the whole factory has to be eliminated from that product. So we have to mask it off completely with, quite often we use white material, put up onto stands that, you know, we hang it over like big curtains, if you like, and that stops all those reflections. And then we introduce our own reflections, controlled. We bounce lights into things rather than firing them at things. So we use different techniques for doing that. So we have boards, we have reflective material, we have all sorts of things that can bounce light back into our product. Because the last thing we want to do is just fire a light straight at it, because if it's reflective, it's just going to show the light with a huge ball in the middle and then no detail there, and everything else is just gradually fading off from that point. So yeah, it's a very technical lighting setup for certain products. If it's just going around a factory photographing, we generally take 1 or 2 lights around with us, depending on what the setup is and required, and how much space is required in that factory, etc. And if it's going to get in the way of production, which we don't do ever, we always let production continue. The occasional shot we've already set up ready to say, can you just bring somebody over to this and we'll photograph this? but generally speaking, we're moving around quite quickly, assessing the situation as we go and going, put a light there, put a light there, put a gel on that light, let's fire that one in there, let's fire that one over there, let's bounce it off that board over there, somebody hold the board up for me while I fire a light into it rather than straight at it. And then we'll quickly set the shot up, a couple of trial exposures, and bang, we've got the thing nailed, and then we're on to the next one. That's how it generally works. So yeah, do we take a lot of kit? Yes, we do. We have spares with us. We have used stuff that we use all the time. We have stuff that we may use but probably don't, but it's there just in case. And then in the car we'll leave some stuff as well, even that's just in case behind. And we've got spare batteries, we've got everything, and we generally have things like the drone with us on site just in case, because we even fly it inside the factories as well sometimes. So that's pretty good. So we've started to do an overview of what goes on and things, so you can fly it down a run of machines or something. So that's quite good.
That was going to be my next question, was how does the photography, video and drone all fit together? But I think you've just described that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just part of the storytelling process. So if it requires it and you've got a big factory, you can, if you can get the drone inside, you can also do the outside of the factory as well. So you can establish where it is. This is how big we are. If it's a big company and they've got a lot of stuff going on, then you can go, this is what we've got. We've got this capability, and therefore people know straight away that they can scale up or scale down, whatever. And they know immediately that they're dealing with a company that's got the capability to produce something that they want in volume. I think that's a key aspect. I think also for smaller companies, you probably don't need the drone as much, and you probably don't use it. But then getting in and showing the detail that company might produce is where the video comes in. And we can do talking head videos and things like that as well if we need to. So it's a complex set of things that we do, but it's all based around the same thing, and it keeps coming back to that storytelling, really, where it fits into the whole narrative of what the company wants to show. And the key things that a company generally wants to show is, like I said before, the culture of a company is important. Can they produce what you want? So therefore, storytelling of the product that they build, all the processes they use, because they may be able to adapt that to make something else for somebody they've not thought about. And then the final thing is the actual product itself, and in its glorious state as the thing as a finished. And the thing that we're trying to push more for, I think, now is also getting on site to where those products are installed or used, so that we can then do the end user experience and then relate that back to a testimonial for them and things like that. And I think that's also going to be key to the story. And going forward, it's not always easy to get that, because our client then has to speak to their client and see if they can get that time. And if it's in a laboratory or something else, time is of the essence for those companies, and therefore they can't always get in there. But it is an important part if we can do it.
Yeah, it's tricky getting that side
yeah,
of it.
because then you can bring another.
Go on. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, you're bringing another set of people on board to try and fit into a diary here.
Yeah, I think throughout marketing, it's hard to get that final bit. So I always talk about, we've done the strategy and we're doing the actual implementing that. We're monitoring the results, but how do those results link up to the sales, which is ultimately what you're trying to achieve? And so that side of it is really, really important, so that you can show, what the final result is and what the testimonials are and all of that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that is it is a key point, and yet you're right. It's the final part of the story, isn't it? On both sides. So yeah, it works well.
So, are there any quick wins for a business that wants to get their visuals better but doesn't know where to start?
Quick wins, yes. So we touched on at the beginning, can you use a phone or another camera to photograph? Yes, you can. Make sure your lighting's good. Look at some video tutorials online and try and work it out for yourself a bit. You'll suddenly realise it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and you probably still go and want to smash it up and go away. So then your quick win is to phone a photographer, professional photographer, who knows what they're doing. But key thing there is make sure you find somebody who can do what you want them to do, because there's a lot of photographers out there, and I would recommend people for doing weddings and even headshots over myself sometimes. Although I do headshots as part of a package if it's a factory, shooting, photographing the people and everything else as well, that's fine. But if it's just specifically to go into shoot a team of lawyers or something like that, then I would recommend other people that I know. And vice versa, they would recommend me to go and do a factory shoot or a construction site because it's what I do. So yeah, do your research, look up how to do it yourself. If you want to have a go yourself, by all means do, but make sure that lighting's good. Make sure the product looks like it should do, and don't have a busy background behind it where you can see everything else that's going on in the area, because nobody's really interested in the books on your shelves behind. So yeah, I'm actually in a room that I shouldn't be in today for doing this, but hey, whatever.
Well, I keep saying this, but do as I say, not as I do.
Well, yeah, exactly. So yes, it's key to just make sure that it looks as good as it possibly can do if you want a quick win. Alternatively, phone somebody up who knows what they're doing and
Okay.
get in touch.
Yeah. So, on that note, how can people work with you? Where can they see your work, and how can they get in touch with you?
Currently, a new website is underway, and it's the first page is up.
Great.
Although the connection bit, I've got to do a contact page. I've not done that yet. I need to get it done. But yes, you can reach me via LinkedIn. You can reach me on through my website. The telephone number should be on there. You can phone me and you can email me. So it's Kevin Timmons Photography.
Okay.
I'm also potentially going to be rebranding in the not too distant future, and that will be KT Media. Mainly because I've got my website and my email is enquire@kevintimmonsphotography.co.uk, and it's very long, and people have said it for years. That's long. So I thought, you know what? What's a good way to rebrand and get a shorter name? So yes, and
Okay.
because we're now doing the video as well. So it was just photography originally, and now it's video as well. So KT Media fits the bill more.
I feel a strategy session coming on.
Yeah, we need another coffee.
We do.
Definitely.
Okay, I will pop all those links in the description so that everybody can click on them and get in touch with you. Thank you ever so much for
Thank you.
being my guest today and giving
Pleasure.
us some insights. I'd encourage anybody watching or listening to this to go and check your camera roll and see whether you think your photographs cut it. And if they don't, then obviously get in touch with Kev or another professional photographer. And whilst you're there, give the show a follow, subscribe, you know all the details for more insights. Thanks ever so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.